Welcome to the Building Your Career podcast. I'm your host, Don Tarjanskis, and join us as we explore the world of construction. Each episode, we welcome a guest that shares career highlights and career advice, and hopefully inspires the next generation of construction professionals. Welcome to another episode of the Building Your Career podcast. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest, Manolis, who has got a very interesting kind of background and a very interesting business setup as well. So I was super keen to get him on the podcast, just because obviously what we're trying to do in this podcast is discuss the various career options open to people within the industry. So Manolis, I suppose I'll start off where we always start off, really. Could you tell me a little bit more about yourself and in particular a little bit more about the company that you founded?
Sure, Dom. Well, I mean, it's a pleasure being here. Thanks for the invitation, and always happy to assist when it comes to younger engineers and whatever we can do to actually keep our sector rolling. So just a bit about myself. I did my degree up in the University of Leeds. Did my bachelor's and master's there in civil and structural engineering. And following that, I worked in London for about 6 years in a couple of companies there. They were both SMEs, so they were around 300 strong, with office around the UK. I think, that was quite good for me because I got a wealth of experience in a range of projects. So it was good that I didn't stick with one massive project across my whole time there, and I was able to move around. So whilst I was there, I was always flirting with the idea of coming back home. We're currently based in Greece, and that pre-COVID era. So I was thinking about doing that whole thing remotely, and obviously back then it wasn't popular at all. If you were Googling remote engineering, you would get a vacancy for an engineer required in the middle of nowhere doing some site testing and stuff like that. So it was not established at all. But I was sitting in my London office thinking, why couldn't I just be sitting back home, in Greece, and then doing the same services and everything? So I left the UK in 2019, about 4 years ago. I did my mandatory national service. We have to do that here in Greece. And then I set up my company called MPa Structural Supoort Services. And basically our aim is to assist UK SMEs in the structural engineering sector with resourcing. So all our clients are structural engineers, or 90% of them. We tend to avoid working with individuals. We prefer to keep it on sort of B2B level. And the whole operation is happening remotely. So obviously, we're being based in Greece. We are a team of 4 engineers now. Nothing massive, but we're getting there. And we are all remote as well between us. So the people in Athens, Thessaloniki, have scattered around Greece. Myself, I'm based in Crete. And so we're quite unique in that sense. And it has been quite a challenge to actually make that remote working work properly and effectively, and make sure my employees are happy as well, and our clients are getting the quality they want. So I think it was critical for me to get the chartership with iStruct. I got that some years ago. Quite an interesting process, and it helps me a lot in terms of business as well. Obviously people understand when you're chartered that you've gone through a certain training and everything. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself. And the company I founded 3 years ago. We have done about 200 projects in the UK. So That's pretty good numbers. And our clients range from one-man bands where we help them out with workload, all the way to 400 strong SMEs with offices, like 6 offices in the UK. And we're doing from domestic alterations to data centers, residential frames, either steel or concrete. So we're sort of covering a broad spectrum of services for other structural engineers.
Okay, brilliant. And sorry, just off the back of that as well, is there any kind of key sectors that people can keep an eye on this year as maybe the key growth sectors? Like, I know data centers is particularly busy at the moment, but are you finding from your clients there are any kind of key growth sectors that you're getting a lot of work in one particular area?
It seems like the residential sector is not performing as better as it would some years ago. And commercial offices, office spaces, and these buildings, they seem to have slowed down because of the uncertainty of the corporate world and how this will evolve. But when it comes to industrial, the industrial sector is going really strong. Data centers, generally steel frame, steel sheds, as we call them. They are a big part of it, and they will carry on being a big part of it. Most of the companies now are also having an international agenda, so we're assisting companies that they are doing work in Germany or Dublin or Netherlands. So it's through these companies we're going international. But I would say the industrial sector is definitely very strong currently.
Brilliant. So that's one for our listeners to definitely keep an eye on there.
Yeah. No, I think it's the industrial sector is quite good. Not as challenging structurally as other projects. Like we've done cultural projects like museums and stuff like that, and they are much more interesting from a structural point of view, because you get architects that they are really into it, and they're going to do fun shapes and different levels and stuff like that. So that's that creates a challenge. But then with the industrial sector is a bit more straightforward. Having said that, we're actually currently looking at the job for where we're doing a 2-story office, and it's very close to the main gas pipeline feeding the UK. So we have designed for blast, and we have taken into account blast loads and stuff like that. So that's some of the industrial projects can become quite challenging.
Quite complex. Oh, awesome. Yeah. So for you then, where did your kind of journey in the kind of structural engineering field all begin then? What inspired you to pursue a career in the engineering field?
Well, it sounded like a good idea at the time. In reality, when I finished high school, I was between structural engineering or programming. And structural engineering felt more tangible 15 years ago. So that's where I went with, and I think it worked out quite well. As a matter of fact, when I was finishing uni, I was still debating in myself whether I would carry on or not. But then I landed my first job in London for a company there, and it was a nice team. And this is actually what made me really like our job and understand actually what we do and how we solve problems every day. Doing site visits was really good. So I wasn't so sure at the beginning, but later on it became quite apparent that I like doing that.
Yeah, and I think site visits is quite important as well, because I've said on this podcast a few times, when I was studying architecture, I had to get a job as a labourer just so I could get some experience on site, so I actually knew how things were built rather than just looking at it from on a piece of paper. So how important do you think site visits are for structural engineers at an early stage in their career then?
I think they're very important, and this is one of the main areas where we are challenged as a remote business, because doing site visits is quite difficult. I mean, myself, I come to the UK every couple of months, so you know, and I do site visits then. But obviously, being the whole team is a whole different story. However, you can still do. I mean, there are very good videos online, and speaking with people who did them and share their pictures and experience and discuss about issues they found on site. But as you say, it's quite important when you go on site, you realize that those lines that you see on your computer screen and you have been moving those beams and these columns here and there, what they actually are and how big they are, and you know how this whole thing comes together. And you know, when you are within your first finished building, is quite a nice feeling. Like, you know, I know every beam here, I know every column, I know how hard they work, you know.
Yeah, I
So
completely
no,
agree. Being
it's
able to
quite
see
important,
something,
yeah.
seeing something through from beginning to end is priceless, really.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But following on from that, then, if you could kind of turn back the hands of time, and knowing everything that you know about the industry so far, if you could kind of give yourself a little bit of advice when you first started out in the industry, what advice would you give your younger self?
If I'm honest, I think I was quite lucky in the sense of how things rolled out for me. So I think it's quite important when you start your career to actually join a smaller firm. Don't go with one of the massive companies, because a smaller firm will force you to get exposed into so many different things. And this is exactly what you want when you start your career. So not an advice from my younger self, but the advice I do give to younger engineers when we have a chat is, when you're looking for your first job, ignore the salary at the beginning. Just try and find companies that will offer you exposure as much as you can. And this tends to be smaller companies.
Yeah.
It has a better feeling as well. You're not just a number, you're part of a smaller group. So that's quite important. Communication skills are very important, and it's something that I also realized as I was going along. Obviously, you know, English is my second language, so and for a lot of people it's not their mother tongue. So learning very good English and being able to communicate effectively what you have in your mind is crucial. So communication skills, and think about the things that scare you and try and focus there, because when we close our eyes, we know what are the important things and they scare us, and we tend to put them under the carpet. Don't do that. Just focus on them and try and crack them. And well, I mean, at some point in the past, I've heard a mantra that says, "It's not a sprint, it's a marathon." And I think that's also quite important when you begin your career, to understand that it will take you years up until you get a grasp of everything, and you know what you don't know, and you figure out how everything goes in together. So, but just it takes time. So enjoy the process. It's a marathon. It will take years, but it's quite good at the end.
There's some really, really good advice there, and I love that kind of it's a marathon, not a sprint, because I think a lot of people when they first start out can get a little bit overwhelmed because there is so much to learn. But if you just take it one step at a time and become the expert and master of one particular thing, and then move on to the next thing, it's not so overwhelming. And there's lots of people out there that are willing to kind of help you as well.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
Excellent advice there. So with obviously you kind of mentioned the pandemic and you setting up the business there, and now we're kind of at the back end of that. And 2024 is looking like it's going to be, a very good year when it does come to construction and particularly structural engineering. What do you tend to find are some of the common challenges that structural engineering companies face? Whether that be kind of economic challenges, whether that be challenges on projects, or whether that's down to, the solutions that you provide in terms of design challenges.
But in terms of the economic challenges, I think that that's very different for every organization and for every sector that they are in, because you say structural engineering, but that encompasses so many different areas. So I think sustainability is already a very hot topic, and it will carry on being a very hot topic. And I don't think our designs are doing justice to the whole effort that has been done with sustainability. It's still a lot of talking about it, but we don't see many changes in the way we design buildings based on sustainability. And I think this will impact our sector quite a lot over the next 3 years. So then that's why whenever I discuss with our graduates, or whenever I find an engineer who have a chat, I always suggest look into sustainability with a lot of interest, because it's the future, and it should be the future. So that's quite important. AI is coming in on our sector as well. I don't think anybody can hide from them from AI. So we better embrace that rather than try to assume it's not there. Now, how exactly we're going to embrace that and what the impact is going to be on the needs for more engineers, whether that's going to reduce the need for more engineers or not, I'm not sure. I think that is a challenge in terms of AI and the need for more structural engineers, because it will not replace us. Then I think we're very far away from that. But what it will do is it will help automate a lot of processes. So that will allow the design process to be more lean and requires less but more quality hours on it, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I think, on top of that, we have skill shortage, especially in the UK following Brexit. We do see that there is a massive need for more and more engineers, and we don't have them. That's the truth. Obviously, this is where what we're doing with MPa Structural. We're trying to combat that. We're trying to offer resources to the UK market on that. But the truth is, we are losing engineers, and a lot of structural engineers will go to banking or other more lucrative sectors, and that should change somehow. So I think the biggest challenge would be something like AI, sustainability, skill shortage.
And I mean, it's interesting you should say AI as well, because I did a post recently, a couple of weeks ago on LinkedIn, that Loughborough University have just done a study on the use of AI in the structural engineering sector. So, it's something that is already being thought about, is something that's already being worked on as well. So, if people can just stay a little bit one step ahead of the game, as it were, and start thinking about that now. It's going to be something that is going to be a big topic, as you say.
The thing with AI is that it's currently not very good at reading PDFs and plan views and elevations, but it will not take long, I don't think. So
that's very true.
I was speaking with a friend of mine who works for Microsoft on their AI department, and he said to me that big corporations have already approached them, trying to see how big structural engineering corporations have already approached them, trying to see how they can make custom AI models work. on our buildings, which makes sense. But what he said is not there yet. So
yeah.
he
Well,
said
you've heard it here.
he said about something like 5 years is needed.
5 years. Well, that's an exclusive for the podcast. You've heard it here first, listeners.
Yeah.
Get on AI because
I'm not gonna say any. I'm not gonna say any names, but
no.
Get on AI. Yeah, definitely try and play with ChatGPT as much as you can, because that's the future.
Okay, brilliant. So I was keen to get your kind of take as well, because I know obviously you're from Greece and you came through to the UK and worked in the UK, but I just wanted to see from your perspective what the kind of routes, the education routes or training routes that were available in both the UK market and how that kind of differs to the Greek market as well. For people who are looking to come through the ranks in the UK, or indeed people who are already from Greece who are thinking, okay, well, what kind of qualifications would I need if I'm looking for work in the UK, either to relocate or to work remotely?
Well, I can't speak in detail about Greece because although I live here, I have zero involvement with the construction industry here. So I'm just 100% UK oriented.
Good.
But so in terms of, I think generally in terms of our sector, we have to understand it's a lifelong journey of education and training, and that's actually what makes it interesting. It's not like you're going to learn something today and you're going to be using the same thing over 40 years. Materials are changing, the needs are changing, the tools are changing. So staying on top of them is crucial for actually being an engineer who has a holistic understanding of the whole sector and not just doing one thing. So I think the Institution of Structural Engineers is playing a vital role on maintaining a lifelong education for its members, and I would highly recommend to anybody to get involved with the ISTRAC one way or another. It's really good. There are young members groups. So, for example, people staying in London. When I was in London, I used to, for a year, I used to chair the London Young Members Group of the ISTRAC, and we were organizing technical talks or social events. But at the end of the day, you were at the hub or the group of people thinking the same as you and having the same concerns. So any young engineer should join the young members group where they are located.
Yep.
We don't have one in Greece yet, but we're flirting with the idea. Of bringing ISTRAC here. I think generally the ISTRAC, its global presence is quite important. Definitely, the route to pursue would be, obviously you do your degree, your bachelor's and master's, and then the next target is chartership. For structural engineers, I would again highly recommend you go with the difficult route, which is the ISTRAC chartership. It's a bit more rigorous than the IC, and it has a very high fail ratio, so that's why a lot of people tend to not go down that route, but it's worth the effort. And it's one of them where the journey is worth more than the result. So when you're preparing yourself for the chartership of the ISTRAC, you have to go through a process of tabulating the piece of knowledge, understanding what you know and what you don't know. And so ideally you have you realize that you have unknown unknowns, and then you try to turn them into known unknowns, and ideally at the end go with known knowns, and you top it up as you go along. So I think it's understanding that it's a lifelong process. Get your chartership as soon as you can, and carry on doing your CPDs in terms of watching webinars, going into seminars. There are a lot of different organizations offering webinars. You can go, there is the Concrete Center, Steel Construction Institute, ICE, obviously, ISTRAC-T, the Engineering Club. There are various different means of getting webinars and seminars, and I think somebody should always stay up to date on them, because it's a lifelong process.
Yeah, and I just want to give a little shout out to your website here. I'll include a link below, but you've got a resource page on your website that I actually thought was really, really good. There's some really interesting links there, particularly to iStruct and the Engineers Club. There's some really interesting articles on there. There's some free downloads on there as well. So I'll put a link below for any of our listeners. Please do click on that link and check out the website. There's some really cool information on there.
Yeah, just on this one. I mean, when I was starting my website, I thought I want to create a knowledge corner, so somewhere where one can refer to and get some random piece of knowledge. So I need to carry on updating that, and I'm sure I can. At some point, it will be like a very long list, and it will be really nice. But it's still under construction. Definitely worth having a look and save it as a favorite page, and then you can sort of refer back to that.
Yeah, definitely, and it's something that a lot of companies just aren't doing. A lot of companies on their website just talk about themselves. They don't share information, which is crucial in what we're trying to do in this podcast. So,
exactly,
hats off to you on that one, really, Manolis.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
But just leading on to our final question, then, with the need. The CIOB produced a report recently to say we need 250,000 more people in the UK construction industry by 2027. But what can the industry do as a whole, particularly for kind of structural engineering or civil engineering consultancies? What can they do to kind of attract, nurture, and also retain that young talent that is out there in the market at the moment?
I think the product is good. So what we are doing is interesting. Okay, we're shaping the physical world. That should be enough of an excuse to enter the structural engineering sector, right?
Yeah.
It's quite an interesting job. I think what we need to do as a profession is raise our profile a bit more, because I don't think we're doing well on that. So how we do that, I'm not sure about, but it feels like a lot of people are joining engineering and then they are leaving, as I said before, for example, to go to banking because they have better salaries. And, obviously it's not a hobby, you do it for, getting your salary as well. So I think our sector needs to raise profile and pay better. So, and now how we do that is, it is a different conversation. But one way where we're losing people is they go to project management or they go to banking because that offers better salaries purely for that. I mean, they like what they were doing, but obviously they want more money, so they are off to these sectors, which is a shame. I think we should be able to retain those people in. I know there is a lot of, it's quite a hot topic, and there's a lot of action, even in the past 5 or 10 years, it has been a hot topic of how do we bring more engineers in, and a lot have been done. Even going to schools and let them know what our sector is and what we do before they make their career choice. But another interesting point that you mentioned is how do we retain people? And what I want to raise some awareness is not only how do we retain young people, but also how do we retain more senior members, because what tends to happen is we now have a lot of younger people in an office, but we don't have enough senior. So you don't often, if you see an office, it will be 5% with people over 55. Those people, though, they carry a lot of knowledge and years of experience. So it is important to find ways to even go as far as saying that when these people get retired, they can still contribute back to our sector, because all that wealth of knowledge that they have is going to waste once they get retired. And I think being part of a technical sector, we do need people with gray hair, as I call them, where they have a lot of experience and a lot of things to share. Now, some ways where these people could sort of stay involved with our sector would be offering coaching or external review on projects, and that would be really beneficial for both them and the company. I mean, we're trying to do that at MPa, where I'm in contact with one of my previous directors, and every now and then I will send him one of our jobs and say, can you just have a look at it? He will have a look 2 or 3 hours and then come back with some comments. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? So this is crucial to have it, because what we do carries a lot of risk and is really important. So one thing is bring people in, retain them, but also when they decide to get retired, they can still offer their knowledge somehow.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's crucial.
Yeah.
So to all our director listeners out there, read those words.
Stay
very,
with us.
very important.
Stay with us.
Yeah.
Not forcefully, obviously, but I think it would be really good if because most of them, they want to carry on contributing. They like what they did for the whole life. So, if we find ways of actually keeping them within the loop, that would be really good and beneficial for us.
Brilliant. Well, Manolis, it's been a really, really interesting conversation. I'm so glad I got you on as a guest. So thank you so much for being a guest in the pod. Link below to the website. So please do check that out, particularly for the resource page as well. But for all our directors, please do contact Manolis if you've got any queries or questions. But thank you so much for being a guest in the pod. I really do appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Well, thank you very much, Dom, and I wish you all the best at what you do, and keep growing that channel and the podcast series. It's really beneficial.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Joining us on the Building Your Career podcast. We hope you enjoyed hearing from our guest and learning about the different career paths available. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe so we can reach even more listeners. And if anyone wants any free CV advice or simply wants to know the options available to them, don't hesitate to get in touch.